can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
And hello, sis, you should have been a detective and disenchanter. Thank you guys for being here. Sorry for starting early. I've got some funky weather that's not foreseeable when it's going to go away. And so while I still have power, hi Meatball, I would like to get through as much as I can anyway, because we do have a lot to get through. We are going to be discussing an article that I have been not necessarily holding on to. I just could not find the time to dedicate a show to it. It's incredibly insightful, and I will make sure to add the gentleman's link to his blog when the show is done in the video description. I cannot recommend more going and subscribing, and it's not that I fully endorse everything that the individual says, but given what we do know about the Process Church of the Final Judgment, aka Best Friends Animal Society, this individual, lays out a very strong argument that best friends and the foundation faith, depending on which chapter you were looking at, that it was built off of the backs of children, aka child labor. And hello, Misty Blue. Thank you so much. He is a sweet boy, even though he's a terrorist. And hello, Zaralath Eternal. So I'm going to go ahead and run the intro, and then we're going to get into it. And we're also going to get into Michael Mountain's family, because Michael Mountain is a bitch-ass liar. But let's go.
Propaganda machine trying to come and clean all the mental of the masses. Somebody let me out. I'm stuck inside this house and I never ever asked for this. Powers are seen and the media machine's gonna breed a soulless town. Somebody lift me up where I can touch some love, which is all I'm ever asking for. And there's a ghost in this house. What a haunted place, full of empty lies and lawless times. There's a spy in every room, trapped in a mirror maze. I ain't messing around, we best get out. It ain't wise. Propaganda machine trying to come and clean all the mental of the masses. Somebody let me out. I'm tied up in this house and I never ever wanted this. Won't you set me free where I can finally be in the ruins which you left us? Everything is a mess, so won't you stop to undress all the truth you never showed to us? And there's a ghost in this house. What a haunted place, full of empty lies and lawless times.
right, guys. And hello, Lisa G. No, Beauregard is not here, but I did show him on Operation GCD's show, I think on Saturday, maybe. Hello, Max Norton and 169XC. Hello. And Loha Chiwa. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Hello. Thank you, Retardo Genio. I appreciate it. The gal, and I wish I could remember her name now, I feel really dumb, who wrote that song, her producer wanted me to make the music video, but they wanted me to follow a specific format of topics. And I was like, my brain can't function. I can't make a schizo clip unless it's just like schizo inspired. And so I just ended up making my own video and they went with something else, ironically, heavily pulling from chaos. So it is what it is. It all comes out in the wash, right? Sean, Heather asked me, will you be joining our little group? I said, I'm a Christian and I like dogs, but not nearly as much as you people. Well, that's interesting, Sean. I would really love to pick your brain. And thank you, Lohachiwa. My videos are my creative outlet, which I should probably, I was thinking today, I was like, I really need to make another schizo clip. I need to find some good inspiration. Hey, Goy Fieri. And did ever look up AMTV and Donut Factory? I don't know who AMTV is. I have no idea who you're talking about. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know her name off the top of my head. I will find it and I will include it in the description of the video. That's my bad. It's been such a long time. That was in 2023 when all of that went down. Now, one thing that I will ask you guys, obviously, if this gets super laggy, because like I said, I do have bad weather coming, please let me know in the chat. Obviously, I don't want to waste anybody's time, okay? Because we do have a lot to get through. And if the power goes out or something and I have to start a new stream, so be it. Hopefully that does not occur. Now, as far as the blog, I don't think I want to start there. I think that the thing that I would like to start with is Michael Mountain himself. We're not going to make it too painful. But I do think that his family history is very important because, as the great Jimmy Fallon Gong says, all history is family history, right? So let me open this up the proper way because this wants to open up in, what is it? Internet Explorer, and that's not what I'm using. So give me 2 seconds. That way I can open this up in the proper place. Fuck, I really don't like the way that that looks. All right, but that is fine. And yes, I do agree. It is a beautiful song. Yep. And the lyrics, that's why I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm inspired by this song, just not by the things that they necessarily wanted me to be inspired by. So that's okay. I wish her great success. I think she's very, very talented. She has a beautiful voice. All right. So we're going to get into Michael Mountain first. Okay. That's who we're going with. Here we go. So we are going to work through this. What's up, Jay Mortis? All right, so obviously I want to include what they have up there right now. So this is Michael Mountain, co-founder of Best Friends. Michael Mountain, a co-founder, served as its president and the founding editor of Best Friends magazine until 2007. In the early days, he and co-founder Stephen Hirano developed a unique approach to fundraising appeals that turned around the early organization's struggling finances and set the tone for the Best Friends voice and style that would become a key part of Best Friends' identity. As president, he oversaw the transition of Best Friends from a sanctuary on a shoestring budget get the fuck out of here, to a national organization and movement with members and partnering humane groups all across the country. Michael is the co-founder of the Whale Sanctuary Project, whose mission is to bring an end to the practice of keeping whales and dolphins captive for the purpose of entertainment. Now, this is a very important point that I'm not going to harp on too much, but the Whale Sanctuary Project is extremely controversial. We are going to dip our toes into it, and then I think I'm going to save maybe a separate discussion just on that topic because it has come out. There's many activist groups online or coalitions, I don't really know what you would call them, that have been keeping a very close eye on what this group has been up to. And would it surprise anybody that they've been raking in thousands of dollars? Well, much more than that. Possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, and there's not even a sanctuary, which is fucking amazing, right? Isn't that fantastic? And hello, Jimmy Rustler. Well, thank you. Welcome. Patrick is great. Yeah, on a Coke mirror What's up, Black RG? All right, so let's go ahead and let's continue because I don't want people to be like, oh, why aren't you going into that? That is why. Okay, so here we go. Here's his LinkedIn. Obviously, I want to include as much as humanly possible. So, Michael Mountain from Kanab, Utah, Whale Sanctuary Project, University of Oxford. Now, I don't have a LinkedIn. If I do, I don't know the password to it, so I'm not hopping in there. And this is what I could pull off of Facebook because, again, I don't have Facebook. So he's listed as a co founder and producer at the Whale Sanctuary Project from August 3rd, 2016 to now. Editor at Earth in Transition, which he says is currently on hiatus while he devotes his full time to the Whale Sanctuary Project. I'm not going to get into that because it's just a whole bunch of woo woo nonsense. And then he lists himself as the former president and founder at Best Friends Animal Society from June of 1984 to June of 2008. College at Oxford from 64 to 65, and then Clifton College, class of 1964, which doesn't make sense to me because he lists that as high school. But also, I don't know how things work across the pond. So, and hello, Amy Shimp. Hello, hello. Now, I thought that this was fun. I wanted to include it. This came up when I was looking up some stuff for him, some random blog message board. Anyways, it's basically just saying they're passing the torch. They're deeply sad that Michael Mountain is moving on. Those of you who know him, either personally or through his inspired writings, I wonder what that means, and belief in a better world through kindness to animals and the goal of a no-kill nation, will agree that this is indeed a loss to the animal welfare movement he has led by example and truly is a hero to us all. His legacy and that of the other founders, however, remains. From a few thousand members to over 300,000 worldwide, Best Friends Animal Society has become a formidable force for the benefit of animals, thanks in large part to people like you. That said, just outside the Welcome Center at the sanctuary, Best Friends has a wishing garden. Each wish they receive is written on rice paper to nourish the earth and is planted with the seed of a flower. I hope you will join me in mailing in your wish that Michael returns one day to Best Friends and continues his good work. He's truly a great man who will be missed by many. Apparently, Doc Wheeler, that doggone guy. Well, you know what's funny, because I have to bring this up because it's absolutely relevant. He doesn't have to return to Kanab, he has to return to New Orleans, and that's if one of the founders dies. And hello, my cat Dexter. Process Church owning a dog sanctuary. I'm surprised they didn't make Michael Vick an honorary member. It's funny you say that, Jimmy Rustler, because they took Michael Vick's dogs. What did they do with them? Well, that's still up for debate because I found a fascinating article about Best Friends process, same, being in Israel, which is really great. Don't worry, we're going to look at it. But I was just like, what the fuck? Like, okay, sure. Yeah, they're saving animals flying over to Israel, right? Just like they're saving a single cat out of Lebanon on a private jet. That's definitely what they're using all that fuel for. That's a great cover. Sounds good, feels good, not based in reality whatsoever. All right, so this is from the Whale Sanctuary Project website itself. So there he is, listed as a co-founder. Look at him. He's just a regular guy. So right here, former president, same thing. It's literally just reading all of these statistics. 17 million dogs and cats. When Best Friends started, were being put to death. The number's now down to 3. This is all very debatable. That he started the campaign, public outreach campaign for the Non-Human Rights Project, and it made worldwide news in its first lawsuits to free 4 chimpanzees from captivity in New York State and have them transferred to sanctuaries. That's fine. But right here, this is what's most important. He is the co-author with Lori Marino of the paper Denial of Death and the Relationship Between Humans and Other Animals, published in Anthrozoos. Now, I don't really care about the paper itself, but Lori Marino is his old lady. She's also extremely sus, and this is why we're not going to focus fully on the Whale Sanctuary Project today, but I did want to include that. And this is a radio show that used to exist from talkinganimals.net with Duncan Strauss, where Michael Mountain, I've seen, goodness gracious, what is his name? It's totally escaping me right now. Ooh, Father Cyrus Mejia, they're on quite often. And who was it? Jimmy Rustler. Hello, Happy Marigold. And Your Mom's the Bomb. Hello. So this is from July of 2008. So the highlights of the episode includes outlining the situation with the Michael Vick dogs. Best friends took in more than 20 of the most abused of those fighting dogs and their progress, and briefly explains the logistics and protocol of the rapid response team's forays into such disaster devastated areas as Iowa after the flooding and New Orleans after Katrina. Isn't that fascinating? Don't worry, we'll be coming back to this because obviously the Katrina stuff is super sus. Now, this is from an old blog post from 2010, but I think that this sums up quite fairly what people do think because they're copying from Wikipedia about Mr. Michael Mountain. And so this is what I would say is the public consumption narrative. Hey, P. Thomas. All right, so let's go ahead and let's look. Michael Mountain, aka Hugh Mountain, and known by his religious name, Father Aaron. This is partial. It's actually Father Aaron Tubal-Cain, is the son of the founder of Granada TV, Sidney Bernstein. Michael Mountain co-founded the Process Church of the Final Judgment with Robert Grimston, aka Robert Moore, or Moore, aka Christ. The church first incorporated in Louisiana in 1968. All of this shit is wrong, and Michael has continued to this day to be the president. The Process has changed its name several times and is now Best Friends Animal Society in Kanab, Utah. Here you will find more than 20 of the Process founders, Marianne de Grimston, and her inner circle living on a 23,000-acre ranch called Angel's Canyon. Manson called his ranch Devil's Canyon. When Sidney Bernstein died in 1992, Michael Mountain became an heir to his fortune. Over the years, he has contributed large amounts of money to the Process. To this day, much is written about their connections to the Son of Sam murders, the Manson murders, the Zodiac Killer, human and animal sacrifices, and many more heinous crimes. Whether or not these accusations are true is still under investigation. Public records show the Process Church of the Final Judgment, May 18, 1974, name changed the Foundation Church of the Millennium. This wasn't a splinter group, and records show the corporate name changed several times over the years and is now Best Friends Animal Society. Most of the same people are currently listed in the documents. No one new has been added, and they continue to hold the nonprofit corporation established in 1968. So, that is the public consumption narrative, aka bullshit, aka a bunch of tomfoolery. Okay. And it's fair because, again, with the Process, so many things are missing, things have been misrepresented, and this is why I focus on the genealogy with these people, because it opens the door into trying to figure out the truth, right? And that's important. That's what I care about. I don't know about you. I'm just going to say we, but I hate using that, the fucking royal we. That's bullshit. So anybody that's repeating this stuff, and I'm not faulting any individuals that, what was that, 2010, 16 years ago were saying this. I'm not faulting them. However, I have found Michael Mountain's family 100% confirmed that it's him. He has a sister. He is not fucking related to Sidney Bernstein, and there is no relation to Granada TV whatsoever. Why he would claim these things, I don't really know. It's beyond me. But I mean, people still repeat the bullshit story about how Robert and Marianne met. Okay, so I don't really know. Let me see. User, I'm not going to read all the letters after your name. It says Jay Dyer, his trad hipster wife, Alex Sugarwater Jones, and the rest of the agents are grooming us for the new donut factory frat boy. I have no idea what you guys are talking about with this donut factory thing. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Sugar water, I don't get it. Can you guys not talk in riddles respectfully? But sorry, like, I'm talking about something else, and, I'm happy to read the chat. I'm not making anybody give super chats or anything for me to read them. It's just, please don't talk in riddles because I don't really have time for it. Okay, thank you. All right, so I did want to include 2 pictures from my dear friend Echo Cat. One is a meme that he made because, well, I mean, it is kind of an inside joke, but it does always give us a good laugh. Gives us a good laugh, and I've wanted the opportunity to show these. So this is just a picture that he will send me sometimes if anything comes up about Michael Mountain. Yes, that is Michael Mountain actually wearing those horns. It's just very funny. Okay. If whatever. If you know, you know. If you don't, and then Echo Cat made this meme because of obviously the Whale Sanctuary Project money. The horns. I'm sorry. I think that this thing is absolutely fabulous. And hello, my third eye and Operation GCD. Hello, hello. So, I wanted to show you guys a couple of color photos that I made. That way you can see them before we get into his actual family history. And thank you, Candace Morin. So, there he is, a very young Michael Mountain. And there he is again. And let's keep going. There he is with one of his dogs. Can't remember which dog that was. I wish I knew where they were preaching there. I believe that this was in California in 68. I believe that that's in 68, the street preaching. And there he is with his dog, which we will see the newspaper article where they reference it. All right, so this is from my original presentation, which again will be uploaded for the patrons as is. Now, this is, again, if you're familiar with process literature, we did this last time with Caleb, Rupert, Ashburton, Dunning. So it says Hugh Mountain is 21 years old, Jewish, genius, megalomaniac, ex-Oxford University, left in disgust, strong-willed, dynamic, Brooks, no contradiction. Likes Radio Caroline, cornflakes, other megalomaniacs, work and intensity. Dislikes limpness, cowards, liars, and moronic intellectuals. Dedicated to the elimination of the gray forces. Oh, there's the dog's name, Lucifer. I don't know if that's the same dog, no clue. And then this was, I believe, from the article, I think it's the Pause from Hell, something like that article. Many people are familiar with that. But it says Charles Manson had been in prison for about a year when someone had the bright idea that we should interview him, says Mountain. We were broke, and we thought it would help sell the magazine. We also hoped it would put all rumors of our association with Manson to rest, but it only stoked them. Shut the fuck up, dude. You guys are so full of it. All right, so there are the original photos. This is from an old process. This is from the compilation process book, this one on the left. I will have to find, because this one, the International Canine Defense League, I'm going to have to find that article. I know that many people are familiar with it, and I can't remember it off the top of my head. Again, this is from the Process compilation book, and There Was Darkness, recorded by Father Aaron. Creation, fall, the wilderness, the covenants, Christ, rejection of the word, the fruits of rejection, the prophecies, and the judgment to be. Great. Sounds riveting. So here him and Mother Hather are from March 31st, 1973, the Birmingham Post-Herald, where they are out just doing the Lord's work, right? Look at them, just a couple of street preachers. Okay, just a couple of street preachers. And right here, so, yep, told you, it's his dog's son. So this is from the Arizona Republic, April 25th, 1981. In honor of World Animal Rights Day Sunday, the Reverend Michael Mountain and humane organizations in the Valley are sponsoring an afternoon of entertainment and education for animal lovers. Isn't that nice? Well, let's go ahead and let's continue. So these are some things that you did see already, particularly with the Whale Sanctuary Project, but right here we have the League of Humane Voters Political Action for Animals. So Michael Mountain is the former president and one of the founders of Best Friends Animal Society. We've already heard this 100 times. Today, Michael is active with a number of organizations working to liberate marine mammals from captivity to achieve legal personhood for certain non-human animals. Do you hear that? To achieve legal personhood for certain non-human animals. Riveting. And to apply science and scholarship to animal advocacy. Why should we listen to this guy? Why should we listen to him? I don't believe that he knows what he's talking about, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Now, this is another magazine that he had online that I can't really find much archive of it, though I'm happy to be proven wrong, but this was on the Talking Animals website in regards to his magazine, Zoe. It's Our Nature. So this was his new venture in January of 2011, an online news magazine for people who care about the animals, nature, and our planet. I don't really care. That's fine. But right here, he also talks about Michael Vick and why he believes Vick is so far ineligible for the tale of redemption many are trying to script for him, and 3 instances of President Obama's blind spots in the realm of animal welfare. Well, isn't that fascinating? And I do think that it is interesting as a person who rescued pit bulls for a large portion of my life, but I am not stupid and realize that many of these dogs, it's a case by case basis, and you value human life over the animal life. Stubby Dog is that at that time solely focused on rehabilitating the image of pit bulls to help give the breed a good name. It's There's a fine line in that propaganda. That's all I'm saying. I understand that it's an emotional topic for some people. I think it's stupid to make it an emotional topic. I just think it takes some common sense, but this is also likely why Best Friends has such a poor track record. Now, if we go over here, because you guys know that I love the old papers, right? So I'm not going to read the entire thing, but this one, the big one, is from the Arizona Republic, August 25th, 1979. Jews' survival in question, rabbis say. Well, who's the first rabbi that's listed? Michael Mountain. Imagine that. So, what did old Michael have to say? Right here, Michael Mountain, a Jew who has accepted Jesus Christ as his Messiah, said he is embarrassed by our people's exclusion of God in our lives. I listen to sermons if I visit a synagogue, and God rarely, if ever, gets a look in, he said. Jewish kids fill a gap in their lives, and then they end up joining a cult group, largely, in my opinion, because at least the cult people talk about God. That's rich coming from a Processian. Mountain, who has a Christian ministry to Jews, said that without God, Judaism is meaningless, empty, and dead. Mountain and other Jews who have accepted Jesus as their Savior and Messiah contend that they are still Jewish, often referring to themselves as completed Jews. Riveting! Isn't that fascinating? Imagine that. Isn't it crazy that a Nazi group has a rabbi? So, right here from the Arizona Republic, July 28th, 1979, Michael Mountain, a born again Jewish believer, conducts a weekly discussion of the Messianic movement among Jews. And right here is one of his flyers. Michael Mountain Ministries, again from the Arizona Republic, 1979. Jews who follow Jesus every day, Monday through Friday on the radio. Meetings on Fridays at 7 p.m. So there you go. Now, before we continue, because while it's on my mind and I did not merge it into this, I have to show you guys the fascinating paperwork that I found about this, because it's really something. That's all I'll say, is that it's really something. So let me pull this up. I'm going to take a breather for 2 seconds, and then we are going to scan through the Jewish ministry that Michael Mountain had, because pretty controversial. And I'm pretty sure that whoever scanned this in and uploaded it into the business records website made a huge mistake, that they weren't supposed to fill this whole thing in. Let me see. All right, who did I miss? And Alex Jones on Rumble pushed the jab, called it sugar water, said Gates and Trump got us the good vaccine. Oh, well, that's retarded. I mean, I don't care what Alex Jones says. Old Alex Jones was great. Sorry, give me pre-Ozempic, pre-tanning bed Alex Jones, okay? And hello, Tara Jackson. And the process acknowledged Manson as a member, or at least an affiliate, in the summer 1988 Lamp of Thoth magazine. Oh yeah, did they really, Goy Fieri? I don't know that I've heard of that. Is he a self-hating Jew? Well, JPM, probably, because aren't they? Well, when I'm talking about this, let me not say all. Don't become verklempt, okay? But aren't they all? Oh boy, the jokes just write themselves, right? The jokes just write themselves. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry though. And the real John Doe, there's always a rabbi. Yeah, often. I'm here for the dark humor. Well, thanks, Jabin Devis. And hello, Phil Yuri. A few rabbis actually consider Hitler as being sent by God. He was put here to punish Jews who disobeyed the rabbinic teachings, according to them. Well, I don't agree with that. I think that that's insane. But you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like Scientology with the whole you brought it upon yourself, like you made it happen. It's just cuz they also make that argument. Just so people know. Scientology makes that argument about World War II and the tiny hats. That's all I'm saying. Okay? This isn't a unique take. It's just I don't understand hating where you come from. I think that it's stupid, right? Like, I obviously gave my long winded opinion of this when I covered Nicholas Schreck, aka Barry Dubin, with one ear and no hair, and how he is a self hating Jew, right? When I did his family history. So, it is what it is. There's a huge movement to equate Israel with Nazis. Typical lefty lunatics. Or Bill Hicks. It could be Bill Hicks. I mean, it's a fun joke. The Bill Hicks thing and the Alex Jones thing, it's a fun joke. Not hurting anybody, right? Nobody's being harmed by that conspiracy theory, nor am I out here letting it dictate my life. It's just fun. He's one of those Urgan Jews, the type that kind of digs right angles on flags. Have you ever read Sparky, Surviving Ritual Sex Magic by Juliet Angles? She has a lot to say towards the end of her book about the overlap of MK Ultra and stuff going on in the canyon. I have not. I haven't even heard of that. Also connected to the Golden Dawn and the Rosicrucians. That's very true. And hello, John aside, Barry is the worst self-hating Jew on the planet. Well, I don't know. He, I get told funny things by people that people like Barry say about me. So it is what it is. I don't really care. I'm certainly not looking to be friends with the guy, right? Not looking to be friends with the guy. But let me pull. All right, so I've got this pulled up. Oh, we're going to be doing a lot of zooming. All right, so if I could have Hicks and Jones switch places, I would. Same. I completely agree. It's like I said, I don't give a fuck what Alex Jones is saying. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. This is going to be a super hot take and people might get offended. But people also feel very strongly about, telling me what I'm allowed to enjoy or not enjoy and how that my brain is close to having the little parasite propaganda hooks in it. And it's like, shut the fuck up. I don't watch Jay Dyer. People have told me to. I just don't. And when he jacked my Turning Point Michael Aquino stuff last year and took it onto InfoWars and didn't give me credit, I was like, wow, fuck you, Jay. So it is what it is, guys. Let me see. What did I miss? There's a whole book written by a Kiwi guy connecting Hitler to Tavistock. What's a Kiwi guy, old Lucci? I'm not sure. I have no idea. Hicks or go home. Hello, David Hoyne. Alex Jones does glow in the dark. Correct. And I'm sure that the whole tanning bed thing also doesn't help, right? Because I'm sorry, the man's on Ozempic and he bought a tanning bed. Give me alcoholic, overweight, raging, screaming Alex Jones. A man with a temper that seems a little bit unstable. We all have our things, right? We all have our things. I don't have a type, but I'm just saying that was better. Now it's like, plus he's into Blair White. And so I'm like, bro, are you gay? Pretty sure he's gay. At least a little bit gay. Definitely fake and a little bit gay. Okay? Got to take my headache medicine. Hold on. You literally lose nothing ignoring Jay Dyer. I don't think so. I don't really know what I would gain. But I can't say because I haven't watched. Let me see. I don't want to get too sidetracked. I love you guys. I'm so glad you're engaging. However, it's a New Zealander. Oh, well, how do they talk? I was going to do it Australian. I was going to say Kiwi. Kiwi on the Bobby. Too many NPC lore with him. And let me see. Oh, my bad. You're bad what? No bad. No real bad. Fuck. No bad, real John Doe. Your name fucks me up. The book is called Hitler Was a British Agent. Oh, didn't Hitler paint a portrait of the bridge in Tavistock? This is what I've heard. I don't know. I agree that Alex Jones is just paid opposition. I don't have an opinion of the guy from Higher Side Chats, Disenchanter. Uh, I've listened to a couple conversations there that I found interesting. It was a couple of years ago, to be honest, but I don't have too strong of an opinion one way or the other. The painting is called Self-Portrait. There's an extron above his head. That's weird. If Jay Dyer is the ortho pro he seems to be, he's probably really sexist and doesn't want the cool kids having any fun. Well, I mean, whatever. I don't care. The whole like ortho bro, these infactional fighting things, and people are like, just call me Tim if you can remember. I'm gonna try really hard. That whole thing, and people are like, oh, like Christians just want to ruin everything, and I'm like, fuck off, okay? I don't care. People want to sit here and be like, oh, you're falling for a Jewish psyop by calling yourself a Christian. Shut the fuck up, dude. Gee, for Christ, be quiet, please, for the love of everything holy. Now let's go ahead and let's get back into the Jews, okay? Here we go. All right, so this is the Jewish Crusade for Jesus. All right, we see that right there. So here we go. Arizona Corporation Commission. Obviously, this is a little bit hard to read, but I can't control that, okay? However, this is from May 23rd, 1979, Michael Mountain Ministries. He is the incorporator. And we have Catherine Ives McCormick. Isn't that fascinating? All right, so there we go. Oh, wait, and who did he? Dean Landis was the incorporator as well. All right, so Articles of Incorporation of Michael Mountain Ministries. Know all men by these presents. By these presents, I don't know, that we, the undersigned, do hereby associate ourselves together for the forming of a nonprofit cooperative corporation under any by virtue of the provisions of Title 10, Chapter 1, Article 4, Arizona Revised Statutes, and to that end do hereby make, adopt, and certify the following as our Articles of Incorporation. The name of this corporation is and shall be Michael Mountain Ministries, and the principal place for the transaction of its business shall be Phoenix, Arizona. And we have to read this, guys, because, well, this is just an arm of the process. The objects, powers, and purposes of this corporation and the general nature of the business which it proposes to transact are 1. To operate exclusively for religious, educational, instructive, and recreational purposes in such a manner as the Board of Advisors shall deem best, provided, however, the corporation shall not in any manner carry on propaganda or otherwise attempt to influence legislation. 2. To proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ as the Jewish Messiah, the Son of God, the incarnation of the one God of Israel, by any and all suitable means, including, but not limited to, wait a minute, doesn't what I'm about to read sound like propaganda? Radio, television, or other electronic or mechanical means by written communication of whatsoever nature and by personal evangelism wherever possible. Sounds like that to me. To buy, contract for, lease, or in any other lawful way acquire, take hold, own, or sell, mortgage, lease, and otherwise dispose of lands and all other kinds of property and classes of interest therein, including personal and mixed property. To borrow money and to issue bonds, debentures, I feel like a retard, notes, and other evidences of indebtedness and obligations from time to time for any lawful corporate purpose, and to mortgage, pledge, or otherwise charge any and all of its properties, rights, privileges, and assets to secure the payment thereof. To seek subscriptions, donations, and contributions for the costs necessarily incurred in carrying on the stated functions of this corporation. To accept by gift, devise, or bequest money, property, or rights, and to do any and all things necessary, suitable, or proper for accomplishment of any of the purposes or attainment of any of the objects herein before mentioned, either alone or in association with individuals, corporations, or partnerships, so long as no pecuniary benefit shall inure to the benefit or any individual member of this corporation or any such associated individual corporation or partnership, and in general to do any and all things which a natural person could do or which now or hereafter may be authorized by law to do, and in general to do such acts and things and to transact such business in connection with the foregoing objects as is not inconsistent with the law. This sounds like a bunch of fucking gobbledygook, right? Sounds like a bunch of fucking gobbledygook. So, the membership, let's just go right here. Vote upon any and all questions coming before the members. Any person ceasing to be a member, whether voluntary or by expulsion or by death, how ominous, shall forfeit all rights and privileges of that membership. Okay, that's great. So, we're going to skip through some of this crap. But right here, these are the names that are important. Not so much Dean Landis himself. However, Rebecca Ives is, because look, we've got at least one of the new process addresses, 7220 East Stetson Drive in Scottsdale. That's a bingo. That's a bingo. Okay. And yeah, we're not going to sit here and go through all of this stuff about property because we have way too much stuff to read. This is great. Obviously, it's not as in-depth as the process incorporation documents from New Orleans. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's continue because I want to read you guys the important stuff. But Rebecca Ives is Catherine Ives McCormick. That's right. That is Father Malachi. Malachi McCormick? Same McCormick. Okay, we talked about her. So this is done 23rd of May, 1979. There we go. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and see. This is from June. Additional paperwork. Let's go ahead and let's see what some of this stuff says. See how messy all of this is? Whoever scanned this in. So from Dean and K. Landis, Corporation Commission. Okay, let's continue. So right here, to Michael Mountain. Received January 14th, 1980. Ministries, Inc., Michael Mountain Ministries, Inc., I apologize. Gentlemen, be so kind as to furnish this office the name and address of a new agent. This is a must. Jacob and Davis resigned. Failure to comply may result for the charter to be revoked. Please be certain the new agent is a resident of the state of Arizona for at least 3 years. Also give us a full address, no box numbers accepted. Please include the zip code. Do you think that these people might be getting a little sick of dealing with their shit? Because we know how the process rolls, right? So there you go. Says no longer at this address. Well, isn't that helpful? So let's go ahead and continue. The law offices of Jacob Daniel Davis Limited from January 9th, 1980. Resignation of statutory agent for Michael Mountain Ministries. So he resigns. Let's continue. Same thing. I guess they scanned that in twice, but I don't want to skip over anything. So right here, this is from August of 1980, the Jewish Crusade for Jesus. Failure to publish and file an affidavit. This is the certificate of revocation. Okay, so let's keep going because that's not it either. So right here, obviously, talking about Michael Mountain Ministries. Dear Sir, attached is the letter that I sent to Michael Mountain, the founder and president of the Michael Mountain Ministries, today formally informing them that I am disassociate myself from the ministry as an incorporator, member of the board of director, or association as a supporter in any way. I appreciate you filing this and the attached letter in Michael Mountain Ministries file, which I signed as one of the 3 incorporator. This guy cannot fucking type to save his life and is throwing me off about 6 months ago. Please inform me if I need to do anything else to cut formally my association with this ministry that I once a supporter. Well, Dean Landis, I hope you're a better lawyer than you are a speller. Let's go ahead and let's keep looking. Okay, so right here, affidavit of publication, articles of incorporation, We've already seen some of this stuff. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Certificate of revocation, again. Here we go again. Lots of doubles. Lots of doubles. Okay. But there's that logo. There's that logo. Okay. All right, let's keep going. And there's Catherine again. Catherine's there again. We're going to keep going. Here we go. There we go. Exhibit A, don't care. We're going to keep going. Again, scanned it again. Isn't this fun? So many duplicates. Scan it again. Let's keep going. And again. Here we go. This is what I was waiting for. So, right here. To Michael Mountain and Michael Mountain Ministries. Dear Michael, I apologize for waiting so long to respond to your October 15th letter in which you state your final decision not to change your ministry's relationship status as an outreach ministry of the Foundation Faith of God. Wait a minute. Say what? I apologize for waiting so long to respond to your October 15th letter in which you state your final decision not to change your ministry's relationship status as an outreach ministry of the Foundation Faith of God. Okay. The only question I had after reading it was whether or not you had planned to drop completely the Michael Mountain Ministries and go back to the Jewish Crusade for Jesus, since you stated, "The Lord is telling me clearly to pursue the ministry He gave me exactly as He gave it to me." I want to first express my personal opinion that your letter missed totally what had been going on for about 6 weeks prior to the letter, which I believe was God trying to speak to you through His servants as to what His will was for your relationship to be with the Foundation Faith of God. I would submit that the issue was one of discerning His voice versus what you stated was a tug of war between different denominations of the church. I do not, nor does Bill or the other men of God he used me to assemble to counsel with you on this issue represent a denomination or denominational point of view. I did appreciate you allowing me to attempt to minister to you concerning this critical issue in time, including my last effort at Sambos on October 6, when I reported to you the hard words I believe that the Lord had for you. I encourage you to consider from time to time the scripture He gave me for you at that time, Isaiah 30, 9 through 18, for it includes not only the statement of the root problem, but the way out and corresponding promises. His ministry to you through me does not seem to made any noticeable effect on you, but I do want you to know that it has profoundly affected me. I am sending a copy of this letter with a cover letter to the Corporation Commission asking them to file it in the Michael Mountain Ministries file with a statement that I formally disassociate myself from the ministry as an incorporator, member of the board of director, or association as a supporter in any way. I have already expressed to you personally, in detail, why I believed you are not following God's will in the conducting the Michael Mountain Ministries, which compels me to make this complete break with the ministry and you as you relate to the ministry. It goes without saying that I will continue to, what does that say? Pray for, here we go. I will continue to pray for the Jews to come to know Jesus, as you ask in the letter, and for God to direct and bless you personally, Michael. It is with real sorrow that I have had to quit ministries with you, while my personal desire is that we increase in our ministry together as His return is so close. Please let me know whenever your relationship with the Foundation Faith of God does change. Love in His service, Dean C. Landis. So, obviously, without having any sort of private correspondence sans that, don't really know, because obviously he was still with the foundation, right? So what does that mean? Did this dude, this Landis guy, not want to be associated with the Foundation Faith? I have no idea. That's the vibe that I get, but I could be misreading it. Obviously, this is open to interpretation. I'm not going to go too far back into the chat, but I will peek back a little bit. Hello, Steve Sipos, Courtney Atkins, hello. And let's see. Yes, it does sound boilerplate, but I mean, the legalese, I'm just like, for fuck's sake, people are getting paid for this. Like, come on. Let me see. T Mills, lots of talk about Scottsdale lately. I'm glad I'm not in Arizona anymore. I can tell you that. Yeah, Michael Mountain sure does. Yeah, well, he loves putting his face out there. Like I said, I don't know why he lied about, his past, but many such cases. And who do we got here? Rupert Napman. M&M's would have been the perfect sponsor. Yeah, and hello, Mike K. Melts in your mouth, not in mine, host. That's very clever. That's very clever, everybody. You guys are very funny. And I do see one R. Murray in the chat, so this is for you. If it'll play.
Fuck your life. Bing bong.
Bing bong. There you go, R. Murray. That one's for you, my friend. And Mike K. No, that is not how my name is spelled. It is Dana. But you were close. Only one letter off. Okay, so that was a whole clusterfuck. This is going to be a long show, for Christ. I haven't even gotten to the blog. I haven't even read the article about best friends in Israel, for fuck's sake. All right. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. It's going to be okay, everybody. It's definitely obfuscation. I am of the opinion, unless somebody can break down that paperwork for me in a different way, that it seems that that individual did not want to be associated with the foundation faith. Right? So that's my takeaway from it. It doesn't help that the guy couldn't type really well. Maybe if it was a bit easier to read there, Mr. Landis, then I would have been able to fucking understand what you were trying to say. But clearly, there were some theological concerns, which is fair, right? Because these people are charlatans. Casey Fields thinks the world of you. He always recommends me to watch. Oh, well, I heart him. So welcome. You're in good company. Welcome, Mike. That's great. Love some wax, rather roll than a vape. This isn't weed. This is nicotine. Okay? We all have our things, guys. All right? Just let me fucking enjoy it. Could it have something to do with the Wallace stuff? That I don't know. I still haven't fleshed that out. I still don't know when that stupid picture was taken of them with Wallace. No clue. Obviously, I think it was after the assassination attempt, because why else would they be laying hands on him? But I don't know. And I don't feel comfortable saying confidently what year it was taken. Obviously, I've identified everybody in that photo, so I at least know who's present and where they're presumably at, right? Because it's in Wallace's office. But I don't know. That's something that someday before I would die, I would love to know when that photo was taken, because that's been driving me nuts. They could have tested the spirits. That's true. I mean, who really knows? It's just seems a bit extra for the late 70s, early 80s for them to be like, no, we need to make sure that the state's aware that we're not associated with you whatsoever. And it's like, well, how did that conversation go? Let me see. Dana, what do you think of the incidents like the Twilight Zone set accident as ritual murder? That I have no clue. I have no idea. Can't say. I think it was after. I mean, like I said, I think it was after, but without knowing for sure, without having proof of when the photo was taken, it's only speculation at this point, right? That's all it is. So let me go ahead and pull back up the presentation so we can continue, because, well, how was I able to find Michael's information, right? Well, it was Ed Sanders, of course, because Ed Sanders, as much as people like to shit on him, walked so that everybody else could run. And hello, Hollis Keith, it's so nice to see you. So we're about to get into it, and I will explain how this connects to the clown ministry. But we're not talking about the clown ministry today. Also, fuck you, Jake Shields, and fuck your producer for cutting the audio crediting me out of your live stream. Suck a dick. Let's go ahead and get into it. So here we go. So this was his application for status as a permanent resident. Let's go ahead and zoom in right here. So as a person to whom an immigrant visa is immediately available, other than the one described above. So this is all the paperwork that he is filling out. Michael Mountain. He's listing his address as 1147 First Avenue in New York. That's where the foundation headquarters were, right? So he is a citizen of the UK, according to this. Date of birth, April 28th, 1946. Over here. Has he ever applied before? Yes, he has. Hello, Soil Lodge. So nice to see you. When did he apply? August 20th of 1970 in Boston, Massachusetts. Application rejected. See accompanying letter. Well, unfortunately, they didn't include the letter, the bastards. So let's go ahead and see. Name as it appears on non-immigrant documentation. Mountain Hugh. He last arrived in the United States in Buffalo, New York in December of 1975 by automobile. Okay. And it says, I'm assuming ended immigration of no fucking clue. He says that he was inspected. Well, was he? I don't really know. So apparently he was also staying in Canada, obviously. Now, right here, children. These are not his only children. However, Robin Mountain, female, born in New Orleans, Louisiana, currently living in Washington, D.C. Date of birth, March 1971. This is the child that we will see in a future when I discuss the clown ministry, that Michael Mountain and the leader of the clown ministry, it would appear based off of all the facts, that this is their child because she was in DC at the time of when this paperwork was filed. And the child's name also tracks with everything that I've been able to find. So, because let's not forget that they're out here swapping spouses, right? No, this is not the baby, obviously, that died during infancy. The one that they don't want anybody to talk about, that even Timothy Wiley says is very taboo. Well, guess what? I found that baby too, except for it was a DePire baby that died at 4 months old. But let's go ahead and keep going. So right here, I list below all organizations, society, clubs, and associations, past or present, in which I have held membership in the U.S. or a foreign country. Oxford Union, the Young Conservatives. I think that that's so interesting. St. John's Wood Synagogue in England. When was the paperwork completed? October 17th of 1978. So, what do we have over here? Well, we have the registration for his birth. Hugh Mountain, April 1946. What do we have here out of his mouth directly? April 1946. And right there, mother's maiden name, Weisblatt. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, nor do I particularly care, okay? But let's go ahead and let's get into this. Oh, I think I might have put this slide out of order. My bad. However, let's go ahead and look here. So, these are from the Daily Telegraph, 1947 and 1948. Because once I had found the mother's maiden name, I was able to start hunting. Well, look at who we have. Hugh Mountain as the son of Mr. Alex Mountain, who was married to Dolly Mountain and had a sister named Linda Mountain. Now, Alex Mountain was the son of Fanny Mountain and the late Hugh Mountain, and son-in-law of Mr. and Mrs. Mark Weisblatt. Okay, and then again up here during for his consecration, Alexander Mountain married to Dolly Mountain. Okay, so, and here is his probate, July 10th of 1947, Alexander Mountain to, well, what's her real name? Her real name's obviously not Dolly, it's Doris. So that's how we're able to figure that out. That's great. Oh, and by the official marriage records. So Doris Weisblatt, they got married in 1938, spouse Alexander Mountain. And here is the original record itself. So Doris Weisblatt, Mountain up there. Marriages registered in January, February, and March of 1938. So, bada boom, bada bing. That's pretty easy. Now, this was something that I had pulled. These are the voting records where they show the districts. Okay. So we have Doris Mountain and Alexander Mountain. This is 1939, living in St. Marylebone, which obviously I think is kind of interesting, but let's not spend a whole bunch of time on that. So I was able to find his find a grave. Obviously, there's not a lot of information. And it does say that the death date listed may be the internment date. They don't even have a birth date on here, but he is buried at the Williston United Synagogue Cemetery in Greater London, England. And right here, I wanted to get as clear of a picture that I could. So, Alexander Mountain, this is his headstone. And I believe that this says down here, what does that say? It says October 1901, right? And I think that's the 9th. And then it says life is better because because he lived. I don't know. This is so hard to read. I'm sorry, guys. That was the best picture that I could get. I do apologize. But let's go ahead and let's continue because let's see who this is. Oh, yeah. So this was something really exciting that I found today because I was trying very hard to disprove or prove if there was any connection to Bernstein, possibly by proxy through another family member. This is the only census that I was able to find for his dad. Okay. So this is going to be Michael Mountain's grandfather, Hugh. Mom, Fanny, okay, and then here's his dad, Alex, right? So his dad is 19 at this time. Now, I'm going to go down to the next page where Ancestry breaks it down because it's obviously much easier to read. But here we have, so this is Michael Mountain's father, born in Riga, Latvia. Okay, that's where he was born. And over here, so there is Hugh, that's grandpa, Fanny, and Eleanor, Lily, and then Alex. Okay. So what does that mean? Don't really know as far as them being born in Latvia. Now, I pulled every single registration that I could find, the electoral registers for Fanny and Hugh. Why? Because they were living in the city of London for some time. Anybody who knows anything about the city of London, that's kind of fucking weird. Hello, Todd Wood. So nice to see you. Not trying to ignore anybody in the chat. Hello, Finn Hagen. So this is from 1920, 1921, 19, oh, I didn't put in 22. Then we have 23. So see, kind of weird, kind of sus that they were living in the city of London. If you know anything about the city of London, I'm not going to go through a history of it again. It's where Timothy Wiley's mother is buried. And then here they move into Kensington. Okay. So I just thought that that was kind of odd. Anytime I see the city of London, obviously my, ears go up. So Linda C. Mountain, sister, she was born July 1943. I pulled the official record, so that's what we're seeing on the right. Mother's maiden name Weisblot. And right here, she did die at a young age. Of what? I have no idea. So she died at the age of 18 in 1962. It lists her death date as March 17th and the probate date as October 5th. And spinster, I think that that means that she was just, single. So anyways, Joseph Whiteley is one of the family members that's listed in all of these lovely obituaries. And now we are going to get over to the Weisblots. Okay. So, mother of Dolly Mountain. See how they're calling her Dolly, even though her name is Doris. Isn't this fun? This is from the Daily Telegraph, 1950. So, Bessie, dearly beloved wife of Mark and adored mother of Dolly Mountain, Hetty Elkin, Joe and Arthur Whiteley. See the Whiteleys. And right here from 1954, the Daily Telegraph. This is Mark, dearly beloved father of Dolly Mountain, Hetty, Elkin, Joe, and Arthur Whiteley. Okay. And then right here we have the probate and will for, oh yeah, this is Bessie. Sorry, just had a stroke out moment. Wife of Mark Weisblot. And again, Joseph Whiteley and Arthur Whiteley. That's who it's going to. And this is what I was able to pull for her. So in this census from 1921, she was 14, living in Stepney, Mile End Old Town. I had never heard of that before. So there's Dad, Bessie, Mom. There we go. Say, and then we see Joseph and Arthur. Obviously, there were some name changes. What those name changes mean, I don't really know, but there's Arthur Whiteley. Don't know where all of that came from. No fucking clue. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep going. Now, this is something fun that I was able to pull, and this is Mark Weisblatt's naturalization papers from many, many, many moons ago. Let me see. I think that this was, 1906. I love just historical paperwork like this. But this is him coming over and just listing that, fuck, I can't read that. Let's see. Alleging he is a subject of Russia, having been born at, I can't read that. Nudivor, I have no idea, in the district of Warsaw, and is the son of Meyer and Esther Weisblatt, both subjects of Russia, and of the age of 27 years, a boot manufacturer, is married and has 2 children under age residency with him. Meyer and Harry, well, does all of that track? Well, yes, it does, because there's Meyer and there's Harry. Imagine that, okay? Beautiful. We love it when all of this stuff comes together, right? We absolutely love it. And then here was the census that I was able to pull for Doris when she was 14. That was the actual physical copy instead of just the listed copy previously. So now you have seen that Michael Mountain is full of shit. Okay? He's not connected to Granada TV. He's not connected to any sort of empire. This family, for the most part, maybe, seems to be somewhat normal. Obviously, there's a lot of limited information, but there you go. And hey, Jeannie. So there you go. That's it. Shocking that a processing would lie about where they came from. I mean, who would have thunk, right? Who would have thunk? That's just fucking crazy thought. Now, before we get into the really long article, we're going to look at that Israel article about best friends because I don't want to forget it, and I know that I will. And we're not going to read the entire thing, but we are certainly going to look at it because when I saw it, I was just like, man, this is too good. This is too good. Rich and compelling. So here we go. Israeli dogs escape bombs, land in cushy Maryland digs. Posted on December 1st, 2006 by Brianna Bond, Capital News Service. After her dog Casey died 5 months ago, Natalie Sandler, a lifelong owner from Rockville, swore she wouldn't get another pet. That was before she met Neri, a 13-pound, 8-month-old mixed breed puppy. I saw this puppy and we fell in love. Neri was one of 39 puppies rescued by Concern for Helping Animals in Israel, a 22-year-old Arlington-based nonprofit, this summer during the armed conflict with Hezbollah. He met Sandler at the Montgomery County Humane Society Rescue Shelter in Rockville, one of the 3 shelters in the D.C. metro area that helped CHAI or CHAI place the animals. The puppies were flown from Israel to New York City, then driven to Maryland. From there, they were housed in the animal shelters to await adoption. 4 puppies are still waiting for their homes. Isn't that fascinating that they were doing all of this? So let's go ahead and find the best friends quote. Where is it? Because we get it from, I think, Michael Mountain himself. Yep. Other animal advocacy groups were dispersed across the war-torn region, including Best Friends Animal Society, which housed nearly 300 dogs and cats from Beirut at their animal sanctuary in Kanab, Utah. They were all stressed out, but frankly, no more than we're used to, said Best Friends President Michael Mountain, though he noted that some of the animals still had bullets and shrapnel lodged in them when they arrived. Well, isn't that fucking fascinating? Again, why does anybody believe that this group, who has 2 private airplanes that we know of, and very likely access to a private landing strip, why would you be spending all of that fuel, all of that time, Now, that situation, they're saying 300. Is that true? I don't really know. But there's at least one instance that I know of that they just saved one cat from Lebanon. Just one. Batista flew out there to get one cat. Does anybody think that that's actually what they're doing? I don't. I don't see why anybody else would. Now, like I said, I am going to save the fruit of the stuff with the fucking whale sanctuary project for another time, but we're going to go over 3 screenshots and then we're going to get into the blog. Okay, because then you'll be able to see where it's going to be going the next time that I decide to look at Michael Mountain. Because if I'm being completely honest with you, I need a bit of a break. And no, it has nothing to do with the fact that he's Jewish. It has to do with the fact that he's a Processian. Okay. So I took this from the Arihanta Institute because this was just fascinating to me because this is coming up this year. So I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of terror management theory. But remember Lori Marino? I was talking about her earlier. So she is the presenter of this October. So what does she do? She is a neuroscientist who has studied intelligence, brain evolution, and self-awareness in a range of non-human species. Can we just call them fucking animals, you bunch of weirdos? She is currently the president of the Whale Sanctuary Project and adjunct professor in animal studies at New York University. In 2001, she co-authored a groundbreaking study offering the first conclusive evidence for mirror self-recognition in bottlenose dolphins, after which she decided against further research with captive animals. She is an expert on marine mammal captivity issues, such as dolphin-assisted therapy, and the educational claims of the zoo and aquarium industry, and also works at the intersection of animal law and science. She and Michael Mountain have written and presented on the issue of mortality salience, human exceptionalism, and animal advocacy. So, what is terror management theory, or TMT? TMT is a branch of social psychology that has shown through hundreds of experiments around the world that when people are reminded of their personal mortality, they tend to become more speciest. They try to unconsciously cope with the reality that we are animals and our ultimate fate is the same as all others. These findings provide a way to understand why, despite decades of efforts to protect other animals from human abuses, we continue to largely objectify and distance ourselves from them. We continue to use other animals in factory farms for food, for research, for entertainment, and many other forms of exploitation. In this presentation, I will discuss these findings and how we might find a way to use them to move towards a more compassionate, or at least a more understanding, relationship with the other animals. Okay, I don't really know about all of that. Okay, seems a bit excessive. I don't fucking know. I have strong feelings about this because of these people. Now, this is a Facebook post from 2016, my favorite photo from last night's world premiere of Unlocking the Cage at Sundance 2016, with some of the greatest animal advocates I know, the Non-Human Rights Project. Huge thanks to Penn and Baker Hegedus Films and HBO for making this film a reality. And who do we got right there? We've got Lori Marino and Hugh Mountain. There he is. There he is. And there she is. And yes, these poor dolphins. Now, again, we're not getting into this today, but for those who do have Facebook, I highly recommend going to this page because what I have been able to pull up as a non-Facebook user is fucking fascinating. And I'm going to try to pull this video so that I can show you guys. So it's called Tide Breakers, but they break down and they do it in a multiple part series in regards to millions raised and zero built. So basically breaking down that these people, including Michael Mountain, that they have just been taking people's money. And quite frankly, some of these whales, from what I have read, do not have good outcomes. But the sanctuary doesn't exist. The sanctuary just doesn't exist, which is pretty fucking insane to me that this stuff has been going on for so long. And there's just no sanctuary. Now, unsurprisingly enough, and like I said, we'll talk about it on another episode, another show, there is a lot of it's coming through Canada. Obviously, there's a lot of processed stuff in Canada that a lot of people don't want to talk about, which, whatever. It is what it is. We'll come back to it at another time. Somebody still has yet to provide me with the explanation of why the process united with the Jehovah's Witnesses in Canada, right? And why everything is under lock and key in the Jehovah Witness archive. And Dougie, Lucian, One-Eyed Doug, put the kibosh on my research request with York University. So fuck you, Doug. Okay? Let me see. In the Supergirl movie, Best Friends was in the credits. And well, you know, it is that I don't even care. Whatever superhero comic book stuff, as Operation GCD would say, it's all philemic fan fiction. So it makes sense that we're getting best friend plugs in these movies, right? That tracks. Check out the demented 1960s dolphin cohabilitation project. Oh, I'm well aware of it. I've actually discussed it many times. Hold on. Let me look up his name. Talk amongst yourselves for 5 seconds. Because I tried to start a hashtag movement that didn't go anywhere for that dolphin. Because he was sexually assaulted. Where is it? Where is it? Justice for the dolphin. That's it. Peter the dolphin. Yeah, Peter the dolphin committed suicide. So they say. And the lady wore a leopard print bikini to seduce that dolphin. Yeah, that's what Dr. John Lilly is actually known for. The fucking retards like Joe Rogan and these people that are like, nah, man, it's all about like floating, bro. Floating in like complete darkness. That's how you achieve becoming woke. Opening your third eye, man. Right? Smoke a little bit of Deems, you get into the tank, the deprivation tank. It's fucking crazy, man. You want to know who showed me that? Peter Thiel, bro. There's nothing sus about that, man. It's cool. I went and did it with JD Vance. They never mention the dolphin fucking or the fact that all of that came out of not only dolphin fucking, but torture methods from the Kubark manual. Because fucking Candy Hook is out here like, oh, I'm an expert about MK Ultra. I bet that bitch can't fucking tell you what the Kubark manual is, okay? Get the fuck out of here. She thinks that she's an expert on MK Ultra because she read Chaos, the most limited hangout book ever. Get the fuck out of here, bitch. Sit down, please, all the way in the back. We have received 2 snail mail Jehovah Witness pamphlets now from a P.O. box. That's sus. Whoop, whoop. Kill Bill sirens. Hold up. I have that noise. Let's run it. You better play, little freak. No, if that's working. Oh, that old triad, like the dolphin committed suicide, like Castellaro. Yeah, you know, somebody had posted on Twitter, and I'll talk about this tomorrow on Sloppy Toppy. It was something, I think, that came out in Covert Action Magazine about something that was in Danny's shoe. And I'm like, why is no one still talking about that Danny Castellaro's sister went to Haight-Ashbury and quote unquote overdosed in 1970 and was absolutely crossing paths with Michael Riconosciuto, who was absolutely working at the Straight Theater with Charles Manson. Why? It's fucking weird. It's very strange. Was John Mappin pulling her strings behind Candy's back? I wouldn't give... Nah. I don't know. Yes, he was also... John Lilly was very deep in ketamine addiction. 20 years of research. 20 years! Oh boy, Candace is going to be the next 20 years. 20 years! Oh, I hate it here. Somebody let me off of this ride, please, for Christ. Did the dolphin shoot itself in the head twice? No. No, he didn't. But Peter the dolphin never got justice, which is really unfortunate because, yes, he was sexually assaulted many times through a government funded experimentation program headed by Dr. John C. Lilly. Many of the things that you will not hear on Joe Rogan because it's inconvenient, I'm sure, especially for his sponsors. That the Islam process connection, I don't know. Not off the top of my head. Lilly connection to the Delphi case. I wasn't going to talk about Delphi, though. Oh, Lisa G, don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me hanging. This show's going to be so long, I may have to take a bathroom break. I mean, I was only expecting to go for like an hour, and I'm already like, maybe my bladder's shrinking. Maybe I'm getting old. TMI. Tom didn't just hang out with Marilyn Manson. He insinuates that he took some illicit drugs and maybe was drugged, and that Marilyn Manson's house was bugged. And that he thought maybe Marilyn Manson was getting blackmail on him. Wonder why he would want to do that. Marilyn Manson's into the process, so it would make sense that Tom is hanging out with him, and it would make sense that 20-year Tom, the power bottom for Satan, would be working on a collaboration with the Octopus documentary guys, right? Yeah. Go back and watch that Danny Jones interview with those guys. Go back and watch it and see when they bring up Reconnaissito. Danny said something that he wasn't supposed to, and I don't like Danny Jones. He's a total fucking limited hangout. He's Joe Rogan 2.0. But you can see that it was like, whoopsie, not supposed to say that. Let me see. Brian Warner. That's the guy. That's absolutely correct. All right. We have to get into this blog. It's 16 pages. It's not terribly long, but it's terribly informative. And I have been waiting to present this for almost a year because I just couldn't find time to sit down and be able to focus on it, as you guys know. So, whoops, sorry. Got limited space and everything is squeaky. Lots of noises, right? Maybe we'll just get through this blog and then we'll wrap it up. We're doing okay so far. All right, so I like how in the last 15 pages, Tom goes like, oh yeah, I'm gay. Well, yeah. Here's the thing about that. Tom O'Neill's research team, I've shown in regards to Propaganda Magazine, I think those people were hanging out in like the Andrew Crispo Leatherstein. Yes, Andrew Crispo of the Death Mass Murders. Son of Sam, right? The ultimate evil. So the whole 20-year thing I think is bullshit. And I think that Tom is a lot more familiar with these scenes than what he would like people to know. So that's just how I feel. And I've shown all of this stuff. I've shown the family genealogy. I've shown the emails. People still sit there and cite chaos as like it's some sort of end all be all. Okay, the emails are here. I'm not going to keep repeating myself on my opinions. You're going to have to go and spend the time and look because I put in the time and effort to present all of these things, right? And I don't want to waste your time. Granted, sometimes I do. The chat gets to me and I get a little bit confused. However, that's not what I'm trying to do. So let's go ahead and get into this blog. And again, I will link this in the show's description later. But right here, Odinist drinks semen in ritual, probably initiation. Yes, I've heard that too, Lisa G. The cult of America's largest animal rescue. Former members of a cult allege that what would become best friends wasn't built in part by child labor. By David Ferrier, November 26, 2025. Fucking love this. I love this guy, even though I don't agree with all of his conclusions. The fact that this guy did this, hats off. So, I will say that if you're going to move forward with this angle, be prepared to wear your journalistic integrity hat, so to speak, and make sure you research and verify your sources and their stories. Director Crisis Communications from Best Friends Animal Society. An email sent to Webworm from BFAS. Okay, so here we go. Hi. Best Friends is America's largest animal rescue organization. The nonprofit 501c3 is masterful at fundraising, bringing in an estimated $100 million each year. Celebrity endorsement from the likes of Mark Wahlberg help keep the money flowing in, as does Dogtown, the Nat Geo series filmed at its Utah headquarters. Such a fucking shame. I used to have a crush on him. So, Best Friends, full name, the Best Friends Animal Society, takes a particularly hardline no-kill stance, partnering with shelters in all 50 U.S. states to work towards its main goal of ending all death in U.S. animal shelters. Lots of followers on there. It's an admirable goal driven by an organization that has an almost cult-like belief in the importance of animals, which perhaps shouldn't come as a surprise, given that Best Friends began as a bona fide cult. I've been working on this story on and off for the last year and a half. Over that time, I've spoken to numerous current and former Best Friends volunteers and employees trying to understand the culture at Best Friends. Nearly all of them refused to go on the record, alleging they were tied up in NDAs and worried about legal repercussions. Well, boy, isn't that fucking weird that a nonprofit would be having you sign NDAs like that, right? Especially if they're just saving dogs. Well, animals, but primarily dogs. I'm still not comfortable talking about it, was a common refrain. The thing is, I wasn't particularly interested in any current drama at Best Friends. Any organization pulling in $100 million each year is bound to have elements of discontent within its ranks. Also, I support the goals of Best Friends. I don't want any cats, dogs, or other animals to die if they can find an adopted home. But the concern these people expressed ultimately led me to where this piece landed, examining the origin story of Best Friends, and it gets pretty weird, and at times dark. Jared versus the Process Church of the Final Judgment. Many of you will know who Jared is. Jared was born in Chicago in 1974. His parents had been born Bruce and Catherine, but by the time Jared came onto the scene, they were known as Magdalene and Enoch. Do you guys remember when I showed you that last time? Yeah, I think I did. I know I showed the patrons. If not, fuck, I can't remember, but I know I did. But she was actually Magdalene St. Clair, who later married Peter Ernst Eckhoff. Okay. So, my mother had been an early American recruit, and my father had been a more recent American recruit from Boston. Their union was, how do they say it? Blessed and ordained by the main leader. And so they got together, and they had me. Back in the 70s, Jared's parents were members of the Process Church of the Final Judgment, also known as The Process. The Process was founded in the 60s by British occultist Robert Grimston and his wife, Marianne McLean. I wish people would use other photos of her. That one is so annoying. Both Robert and Marianne were former Scientologists, eventually breaking away with their own ideas about life, spirituality, and their own need for power and control. The Process believed there were 4 separate deities: Jehovah, Lucifer, Satan, and Christ, and you could pick which one you most identified with. They had their own rituals, prayers, and even hymns, like Christ and Satan joined in unity. During the late 60s and 70s, the British cult wormed its way into the US, recruiting Americans all across the country who were partially wooed in by both the accent and the group's counterculture ideas. They taught that the family unit was obsolete and could be disrupted and deconstructed. How very feminist of them. The cult stood out wherever they went, from San Francisco to Mexico. They wore their black robes with velvet linings and hung large ornate crosses around their necks. They also caught attention for the animals they tended to travel with: big dogs, including German Shepherds. Rumors spread that they were involved in ritualistic murder, and by the time the Manson killings happened, prosecutors alleged there were links between Charles Manson and the Process. These rumors were never substantiated. That part is fucking inaccurate, but weren't helped by the fact that Manson told the main prosecutor that he and Robert Grimston were one and the same. Members of the process lived a fairly nomadic life, but set up their main chapter in Chicago in 1972. Marianne split from her husband and co-cult leader after discovering he'd had an affair. That bastard. Those close to the pair say it was a bitter divorce. Afterwards, Marianne took over the process, choosing to focus less on Satan and more on Jesus. And by the time 1980 came around, when Jared was about 6 years old, the cult had been renamed the Foundation Faith of God, or the Foundation. For Jared, the elements of this backstory were either unknown or incredibly murky at the time. We were coached to say we're just a youth group. We're a non-denomination Christian sect, and that was it. Their beliefs seemed to be the world is broken. This is the only place you're going to find any real meaningful purpose. Everything else is just going to continue to be broken and have no hope for anything. And all we need to do, and we need to do everything we can to please the leader, a guy named Gabriel. Gabriel DePire, aka Jonathan DePire, had taken the place of Marianne's ex-husband, Robert Grimston, in leading the cult in the U.S. And the two of them had big plans. Look at that guy, he's not doing anything wrong. A mutt religion. Jared has vivid memories of his early life in the cult, formed in part because the cult made sure they separated families from their children. Until I was 9 or 10, there were chapters kind of spanning the West and Midwest. There was Dallas and Denver and Las Vegas, and then there was the headquarters in Arizona. The kids were just kind of spread out, but then starting when I was around 10, they started being sent, all of them, to the Dallas branch because they decided to call that the Children's Center. And they started a school that was run entirely by the foundation for only kids in the foundation, called the Faith School. I would like to point out to everybody, for those who do not know, and again, this is something that we will discuss as we get into the clown ministry, these schools are not registered anywhere. Again, a lot of these kids joined the Navy, and Mother Hather, aka Faith Geraldine Maloney, one of her daughters, went to Antarctica on some weird space trip, like under the tutelage of William Sims Bainbridge. So how are these schools not being registered and these kids are, allowed to just kind of skirt through things? It's very processing, right? It's very processing. We see this a lot. It's a common theme that's intergenerational, is all I'm saying, okay, according to the evidence. And so we grew up very commune-like. Everybody lived in the same house or houses unless we outgrew that house, and then we'd have to get another one. For 6 years of my life, I lived in a house in Dallas with all the boys, about 13 or 14 of us, and 1 or 2 caretakers. Well, it's kind of fucking sus considering all the shit going on in Dallas with boys at the time. But there was, for me, and for I think the majority of the young people, no relationship with, parents. I knew who my mother was. I actually had to find out who my father was when I was 9. For almost the first decade of Jared's life, his father Enoch had just been a random member of the cult. I'd been told that this British fellow was my dad. He wasn't. I really looked like this other guy, and people were starting to point it out. We think you're probably Enoch's son, and I'm like, you're probably right. This was weirdly common. They were very cagey about weird untruths. They would just hide these things. It's still very strange, and I've wrapped my brain around a lot of things, but that's one I still just don't understand. Well, it's because they were wife swapping and they don't want the public to know that they were out there just fucking all nilly-willy. Jared tells me he suspects it was just another way the cult sought to disrupt family relationships. That's what it was. It was kind of unstable. We're not sure what's coming. We don't know where we're going to live. Sometimes we move abruptly. Sometimes we don't have relationships with adults that are very trusting in any real way. I never really trusted any of those guys as I was growing up because they could kind of quickly turn into a temper tantrum, into some sort of verbally, emotionally, and for me, every so often, physically abusive situation. As to the cult's beliefs, an almost teenage Jared says he couldn't quite wrap his head around them. Everyone was focused on pleasing them, pleasing the other leaders of the branches, or chapters as they call them, doing your best not to rock the boat for us kids. It was a really fuzzy belief system that I couldn't quite understand. We did mostly Christian-seeming celebration-type prayer, gathering, ritual things that also involved candles and incense. It felt like there was maybe some Catholic or Anglican influence on it. But then there were prayers to the Earth Mother and other things. There was some Asian stuff thrown in there as well. So it was kind of a mutt religion. Maybe they didn't even care to have a central dogma or stuff. They were just trying to raise money to support their animal rescue ambitions. And us kids, it felt like we were an afterthought a lot of the time, until we weren't an afterthought. We were the future, and we needed to be trained rigidly to rise up and lead the foundation into some glorious future. I found myself wondering what would drive a father to essentially abandon their child, and to understand that, I had to talk to Enoch. He told me that heading into the 70s, he was deeply opposed to the Vietnam War and was desperately looking for alternatives to help explain what was going on. Living in Boston, he said there were tons of cults around, ranging from the Moonies to the Hare Krishna consciousness movement to Jews for Jesus. But to him, the Process Church of the Final Judgment stood out. What was appealing was this self proclaimed spiritual power that, if you join us, be obedient to our way of life, and contribute everything of yours to the community, you would be granted immediate spiritual power. And that was okay by me. Sounds good. And it was apocalyptic. And I thought, okay, that's not wrong. We're maybe not that far from this world just blowing up and doing itself in. And the thought was that this would happen in the year 2000, and that the group at that time would be in a place where we would be safe from it. He also keenly observed and admired how obsessed with animal rescue the cult was. When I joined, almost every process member who had been in the process for a while had a pet, and usually it was a dog. Dogs are a lot easier to move around than with cats. I think a few people had cats. Yes, the sound is gone. Yep, the sound is gone. Thank you. Who said that? Who caught it? My third eye, you little nasty. Thank you. And we got Goy Fieri right behind. Thank you, guys. It kicked me out. So weird that it just says the sound and not the camera. Obviously, it would be more telling. Thank you, my third eye. My apologies. Hopefully, I caught that pretty quickly. My bad. Fuck. What was the last thing that you guys heard? What was the last thing that you guys heard? Somebody tell me. I'm not fucking muted anymore. I get it. But what was the last thing that you guys heard? Obviously, I'm showing you on the screen. I swear to God, if somebody types in sound one more time, I'm going to freak out. What was the last thing that you guys heard? Tell me. Because it seemed to be pretty quick. It was still reconnecting when I came back. About 1 minute ago. Do I need to go back and read? Did you guys catch it about his father? It wasn't long. The nuclear family stuff, did you hear that? His father regretting that Jared was raised. Okay. My goldfish memory already forgot. Well, great. We'll just go ahead and fucking continue. Let's just go ahead and do that, okay? Obviously, this is on the screen and I'm going to link it. My apologies. It's all there. It's all there. My bad. So, earlier Jared had mentioned abusive situations within the cult. I asked him to expand. There's plenty of trauma there, and I will lead off by saying we can heal from anything that comes our way. Our life can become beautiful from ashes, right? But yeah, you don't do well with instability. Child psychologists can say with certainty that kids need stability. They need affection. They need love expressed. They need unconditional love. They need safe places. I and most of the other kids didn't have anything even resembling that. So just that neglect can be trauma. And it was bad. And then there was physical abuse. I got the ever loving crap beaten out of me one time by a guy who utterly lost his temper. And there was plenty of physical, smack you on the head, come on, don't do that, and other stuff. He pauses. But that was relatively harmless, probably. I don't know. But getting beaten up, and then all that instability. And then there was also a lot of verbal and emotional abuse from specific people who had power over both adults and kids. I wouldn't recommend it. And there were kids who had it worse off than me. There were kids that had it better than me, but there were a couple of kids who were really targeted and preyed on by some other folks who had no business being around kids. You got to wonder who the fuck they're talking about, right? Who they're talking about. Because don't forget, Robert Grimston officially accused of being a pederast, right? And there were some things that were done that felt like, and looking back, with some understanding of human psychology, that were absolutely attempts at brainwashing. By the time Jared was 13, the cult had really doubled down on their focus on animals, especially the dogs. They chose to base their new headquarters in Utah. They were always rescuing and rehabilitating animals, trying to find them new homes, trying to get them placed, and sometimes not. Sometimes they just kept them. By my count, I probably watched 20 animals die, like literally in front of me, just because they had been helped as much as possible and they got to have kind of a more peaceful, more comfortable death in that group. So that seemed to be their focus for a lot of my teenage years. Everywhere I lived, there was always animal rescue happening. The whole putting them, animals, above humans, it may be because they don't have a family or family isn't a priority. Or it's just because this is these people's fucking belief system, right? Why don't we just believe them? Okay. So the author says, you can probably see where this is going. At some point, they bought a ranch in southern Utah near Kanab because they had outgrown the ranch in Arizona and they wanted to have that be their overall organization headquarters, plus a very expandable animal rescue organization. And starting in 1987, I was one of the kids who got shipped out every summer to help build it. I did a lot of plumbing, pipe laying, a ton of dog poop scooping, which I really don't like. I was 13 the first time I went out. We didn't get paid. There were like 15 of us kids who were old enough to do this. And so they just drove us out from the Dallas branch all the way to near Kanab, and we would work about 10-hour days, maybe sometimes 12. A small cast of unpaid children were helping adult cult members build what would become, in Jared's words, Best Friends 1.0. It certainly puts a different perspective on the brief faming you'll find on the Best Friends website today. The Best Friends story. Back in 1984, a scrappy group of friends from far corners of the globe settled in a remote area of Utah's high desert and took the first steps to forever change the future for pets in shelters. It's just a feel-good story for the ages, isn't it? And then he says, Jared goes on. Whoop, let me hit that. I mean, when we were kids, we were there for those 2 months in the summer. We didn't outnumber the adults, but there were a good number of us, and we got a lot of work done. We dug miles of trenches, and yes, it was absolutely child labor. Absolutely. And at the same time, kids are resilient, and we would play Van Halen on one of the guys' boom boxes, or Psychedelic Furs, or some other really good band while digging forever. Or I'd have my Walkman hidden so they wouldn't know that I was listening to it while scooping poop for 8 hours a day for several weeks. So, yeah, we absolutely were children made to work really, really hard. But it was the highlight for us because it was a change up from the pretty bad situation in Dallas under the thumb of the branch leader there. Who is that branch leader? Lucia Smith. In 1991, the foundation was renamed to Best Friends Animal Sanctuary and became a tax exempt nonprofit charity. Jared is no longer part of the cult or what it turned into. He left when his father left. Bruce Enoch was incredibly disillusioned at what the cult had given him after his 2-decade immersion. I was 40 when I left. There was a lot of discontentment, and there was a wave of people leaving. The chapters were closing because there weren't many people around, and it was so obvious that money was going to just one leader at the time, Marianne. Oh, here we go with the whole Marianne with the golden grip gorilla moose knuckle just pulling in everything. He describes Marianne as both a recluse and a narcissist whose promises of salvation began to wear thin. I think we dried up the use of people, and I'd say that during the 80s, more and more of the members began just randomly rescuing dogs and cats. You could go to a chapter, and there could be like a dozen dogs in that chapter that were being taken care of. And that became the transition. It was like, okay, we want to buy this ultimate property we've always wanted to, and it was found in Kanab in Utah. And that became the setting for, yes, what was promised to live in a vortex where we would be exclusively saved from the end of the world at some point, but the years and years of fundraising. It's like, okay, now we can use the animals. And boy, there's a heart tugger right there. But, it was not insincere and it's worked out. I mean, it's an incredibly successful and money making organization. Jared alleges that he later discovered that his mother, Magdalene, had essentially played the role of servant to the cult's leader. By that time, my mother was basically the handmaiden of the woman, Marianne. She was like the way you would expect a leader of a religion. That isn't really a very good religion, to have servants who would just absolutely see to every detail of their lives. That was my mother's job for Marianne. She was utterly devoted to Marianne. My mother had been helping her for most of her life at Best Friends. But yeah, she was a handmaiden, and it's the correct term. Sometimes Jared thinks about Best Friends and the information they leave off the website. Disillusioned Druid, what's up, my homie? There's nothing untrue in their website history of who they are. It's just that 20 years have been erased, right? A lot of stuff that has been glossed over, like the fact that 30 children were born into this thing and helped build version 1.0 or whatever and are erased. I've been blessed with not really caring anymore. But yeah, it's really messed up that nobody really knows that. There are tours of Best Friend's bustling sanctuary in Utah. Jared's been. As someone who literally helped build this place as a child, it's a surreal experience. There are signs. There's a sign outside the visitor center. In 1984, a group of friends came together and did this. And for me, it's like, I can see that this is technically true, but in 1984, that group of friends already was together. They just came together and decided that animal rescue is their main focus. But they were together for 20 years before that in a cult. That is very true. Now, before I continue with that, because you guys know that I love vindicating people when the opportunity arises, I'm going to show you guys from an old Google group the mention of this. I was not able to find the image on my hard drive, but if for some reason one of you out there remembers the stream where I showed the presentation from the never released Son of Sam documentary where they went to Kanab and they showed what we're about to talk about, that would be great because I can't find it, even though it's mine, which is really unfortunate. However, I do. Oh, hello, John Carew. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I would like to show you guys this because before we get into this validates in a big way. And this is part of the reason why I'm giving my hat off to this author, because he really doesn't know like what he's doing, right? As far as doing the Lord's work and validating some of these claims. But let me go ahead and find this. Now, this is not the full Google group discussion. Obviously, that's very long. The only way that I could pull it up past the first page was in the Wayback, which was really annoying. However, I just want to show you guys the date. And for some of you, you may be familiar with the name because this is a very old discussion from one of these groups back in the day about this stuff. Because I would like to point out, and this is not me being braggadocious or prideful, so if it comes off that way, I apologize. However, all of these people who are out here running disinformation campaigns about best friends, about the process, about their involvement in Manson, the son of Sam, etc., will never acknowledge the things that have been validated by the men that they feel so comfortable slandering. And who do I mean by the men? I mean by the men who wrote the books, the men who come before me, before other researchers that are much smarter than me. They never want to acknowledge the major things that those guys were right about. And I have a big issue with that. But we're going to see from an insider who was a source for someone highly respected that I'm not going to name right now, that this person was right. And this does absolutely 110% factually vindicate Maury Terry. And Ed Sanders. Even though I know that Ed, has got his head on a swivel, full-blown paranoia. I imagine that Maury probably would if he was still alive today. So these screenshots are going to look a little funky initially because, again, I had to switch from the regular Google search into the Wayback. But this is the initial post from February of 2004 from the Alt True Crime Group. Okay, so some of you may be familiar with this from a TP McKinney. And here, she's, and again, I'm not faulting her for repeating this stuff about Michael Mountain. We just saw that this is all a lie, okay? But what does she say here? Have any of you researched the process and always hit a dead end? Well, I'm ready to expose what I have found in my research to anyone seriously interested. One important note that I want to make clear is that I am convinced that the lower level members had no idea what the inner circle was doing. They were used as a front to defend the group and claim any allegations as totally false. All right. Now let's go down to these next screenshots, which are obviously going to be a bit easier to read. But again, we are in the same thread. Okay. Not really focused on all of this, although here we go, shit coding, the ultimate evil, right? Some dingbat decided to make them the most evil religion ever, which is why numbskull occult conspiracy freaks are still obsessed with them. I have no idea if they're even around anymore in the real sense. And here's someone else shitting on Maury Terry. The Ultimate Evil book was the biggest pile of horseshit ever assembled between two covers. It all started with Eric Sander. Jesus, can't even get that right. The family. And no, there wasn't a lawsuit. Sorry, this is still a fucking lie that people repeat. It's very annoying. Let's go ahead and continue. So here she highlights, Marianne living in seclusion on the ranch and Robert living on the East Coast as an executive in a telecommunications company. Let's continue. There is the current version of the process, theprocess.org. We have gone through this before. Doug, Lucian, One-Eyed Doug has his shit on there, right? But right here. The groups popping up on the internet are not part of the original Inner Circle Process Church. Many are trying to restart it using the teachings of De Grimston and Crowley. Best Friends Animal Society has kept their past and present satanic beliefs and criminal agenda hidden until it was recently exposed. Their articles of incorporation dated back to 1968. Well, this is technically wrong, but I only have that from Ed, 1967, showed that they are the original founders and co-founders of the Process Church of the Final Judgment and much more. Anyone thinking they were merely a benign group hasn't done their research. An enormous amount of conspiracy theory type disinformation has been published in order to make the facts less believable. And this, chef's kiss, remember they were once Scientologists. Let's not fucking forget. Thanks, TP McKinney. You're on the nose. And in regards to the lawsuit, she said this quote from Michael Newton dispels the rumors that the authors were sued. The lawsuits were not won by either cult. Complaints were filed and the U.S. publisher folded, as they so often do, for economic reasons without a trial. In Britain, where the process claim went to trial, the cult lost. That's fucking right. The cult lost. They lost, okay? So let's go ahead and continue. This individual in Elsie saying that they were impressed with the ultimate evil, and they do believe that the process exists and is a malignant entity. And so they're asking, what is the information that she has? The main thing that we're going to be focusing on is the lake house. However, the process church established by the original founders no longer exists. Well, that's not true because of the New Orleans paperwork, but she's still on mostly the right path. But the malignant entity they created sure does. And what better covered than a sweet animal sanctuary, according to their own accountant, John Fripp, aka Father John Alban Abraham, and one of the two members to visit Manson in prison. That's right, they received $18 million in donations last year alone, and all from unsuspecting animal-loving people. Could the figure be higher? Well, John, a founder, has been their accountant since 1968. Their board of directors consists solely of original founders, and never has an outsider been on their board. Are they still involved in criminal activities? The inner circle still maintains complete control over the information that goes in and out of the organization. Oh, like Scientology. Their forum is moderated, the radio talk show is pre-recorded, microphones and video cameras are throughout the sanctuary. Sounds like Scientology. A large compound called the Lake House is guarded and off limits to anyone other than the founders. Companies that public records show as for-profit and owned privately by the founders are funded by donations and grants to their nonprofit corporation. Best Friends Animal Society. Their secrecy and extensive, highly believable cover indicates something is still going on, doesn't it? People who knew the controlling Marianne McLean find it hard to believe that she would start a benign animal sanctuary and not have something else up her sleeve. That's right. And then a fucking processian shows up. Color me shocked, as it is. Yes, indeed, the process does exist. In fact, we will answer any and all questions concerning the process. Well, unfortunately, that MSN group is dead. And I searched through the way back. All of those links are dead as well. One thing you should know is that Best Friends is in no way connected with the process. They are no longer processians. P.S. I was there. Okay. And what this individual says is that, hey, our TP says you may have been there, but you obviously didn't know what was going on with the inner circle. If you did, you wouldn't be posting that you were there in public view. Best Friends Animal Society is, in fact, the Process Church of the Final Judgment and have just changed their name several times. They have the original corporation and therefore own all of the processed materials. This Scientology splinter group is run much the same as their Church of Scientology mentors and are nearly as bad. The main difference is they use animals as their front rather than religion. Now, and this person is giving the most processian refutation ever. Sitting here citing William Sims Bainbridge because he has a PhD in sociology about the topic. Okay? And I'm going to leave it there for now because if I continue reading through this, well, for those of you that are familiar with that group and that feed, it's very fucking long, okay? And don't get me wrong, haven't forgotten about old Billy Boy Bainbridge. We're going to be coming back to him because we've still got to talk about him joining the children of God, okay? Like, we have to talk about that because that's a fucking problem. But let me take a 2-second break, wet my whistle, and then we're going to finish this. Remember the timeline. That was 2004, right? 22 years ago. 22 years ago. And if I find that presentation where it has the photo of the lake house, I'll show you guys. I know I have it somewhere. Anyone else feel like after finding Dana Pet Sounds is a little on the nose? Maybe. Let me see. Great cover. If you like killing dogs, Dog Rescue is a great cover. That's right, P. Thomas. Finger guns. Hey, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Imagine that. They're not rescuing. Well, I mean, maybe they're rescuing some of them, but I think that they're doing weird experimentation with humans and animals. Because I like to remind people, and I said it last time, they've only disclosed the location of one of the founders' dead bodies, and he was cremated conveniently. Possibly a Scientology-esque hit with a car accident, not being hit with a car, but a car accident. Probably, possibly. And who runs Scientology since Miscavige? Well, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not convinced that it's not Weekend at Bernie's with Miscavige and his, the whole like, oh, little Davy and his fake space navy, that fucking retarded shit that the ex-Scientologists say, like, and they made the elf on the shelf of David Miscavige, and I'm just like, fucking stop, please. It's embarrassing, but I mean, it could be Weekend at Bernie's. The dude wears a lot of makeup, okay? That's all I'm saying. Not fully convinced he's alive. Somebody go do a pulse check, please, so we can confirm that it's not Weekend at Bernie's. Could be Epstein gene splicing products or projects. Yeah, it definitely could. They're not that far from what is it? Zorro Ranch, and neither is Trementina. They're real super secret base Scientology, that is, right? Where they have that very strange audio equipment that only two exist in the entire world, and they want people to think that they're uh, using it to store in their tunnels, their vaults, the recordings of L. Ron Hubbard, and they have the thelemic symbol that is cut into the grass that's only viewable when you're very high up in the sky by an airplane, and that symbol is supposed to tip off old Hubs when he comes back to Earth that's where his recordings are. Get the fuck out of here. They're doing something fucking shady in the tunnels. Okay, it's still the year of the tunnel. Every year is the year of the tunnel, and we're asking fucking tunnel questions. Okay, come on, for fuck's sake. Why do people believe this shit? I've never had a turducken. I've never had duck, so I am opposed to trying it. So, I don't know. How old is Robert Grimston? Ooh, that's a great question. He's got to be in his 90s, right? Let me pull up the calculator really quick. Let's see. He was born in 1931. I shouldn't know this. This should not be burned in my brain. Let's see, 2026 minus 1931. 95. 95. Isn't it crazy what Roman Polanski, I think, is like 93, 94? It's like all the really evil people. Kenneth Anger. I mean, he looked like the fucking crypt keeper, right? These people live to be so old. So old. So old. Yeah, Robert Grimston's alive. Now, what's going on with him is up in the air as far as if he is of sound mind. According to J.J. Brines, the deceased J.J. Brine of Vector Gallery, according to his Marianne, his oracle, she seems to be of the belief, I have not shown this, but I will show it because my process alpha mole sent me the screenshots, that she is of the belief that Faye de Grimston basically is moving Robert between Staten Island and Sarasota, Florida. So, I don't really know what to tell people. But of course, he's going to move to like the retiree place, right? Of course he is. Still a processing though. All right, so we just read about that from 2004. 2004. So keep that in mind. Because this has all been chalked up to conspiracy theory bullshit. Okay? So, the cult of best friends. When Nat Geo shot Dogtown at Best Friends Utah headquarters, there was one key location you didn't get to see. It's a reminder of the real story behind Best Friends. Jared tells me it's a location that's also left off the tour for anyone stopping in at the headquarters. They don't talk about it, and you don't go there on your tour. There's something called the Lake House. The tour takes you up what used to be a county road that was gravel and needed grading all the time, up and around a beautiful vista. There's kind of some rocky promontories, and you go up and around, and then you hang a left, and all your options are left. But if you were to go right and follow a very long, windy road, you'd get to what's called the Lake House. So back in 88 or 89, the leader said, we're going to build a religious haven, a space of sacred peace for all members of the foundation to worship to be at one and to be at peace. We're going to call it the lake house. It's going to be huge and beautiful, and we're going to use all of our skills. Don't forget, in some of these obituaries, they talk about their spoopy skills, okay? It's quite beautiful. It looks temple like. You can get a view of it if you have the right angle from the county road. That's correct. That's the picture that I'm referring to that I need to find, but it's kind of hard to because it's way back there. It was meant to be set back and set away and fairly secret. So that was built and it's full of beautiful art. Some of it crafted, some of it purchased for large amounts of money. You gotta wonder what fucking art they have in there. And it was not used for any of that sacred religious practice. This is what I don't believe. It became an absolutely huge mansion residence for Gabriel and Marianne, the leaders. That's where my mother spent the last years of her life, cleaning that place and doting and caring for Marianne. And this is where I disagree with the author. Best Friends is no longer a cult. For the last 30 years, it's been a nonprofit 501c3, growing into America's largest animal rescue organization. Mark Wahlberg loves it, and it brings in tens of millions of dollars each year. It's hard not to think of something Bruce told me earlier when he'd first joined the Process Church of the Final Judgment. When you're running around in black and you're displaying both a symbol of Satan and the symbol of Christ on your uniform, it's going to get some attention. And they wanted attention because you get attention and sometimes people might join. And guess what? People join, you get more money. And the more people are involved, the more money is going to come into that group. While many of the original cult members have since passed away, some are still present. You can even find former cult leader Gabriel DePire on the Best Friends website. There are only two photos, and one he's clutching a cat, and another he's crouched on an outcrop of rock flanked by several large dogs. He's listed as a founder at Best Friends who is engaged in contact work via telephone and speaking engagements. And there he is. And I would just like to point out, because that's not the only photo, that he does match the description of the individual who came into the law office where Arliss Perry worked at that time. He matches the description to a T. I asked Jared, who's kept in touch with some of the other children he grew up with in the cult, if he thinks any of the cult remains with Best Friends. I don't believe there's religious aspects beyond a very heartfelt belief that animals are the better part of creation and it's our job to take care of them. It feels quite religious in the prioritization of animals, and that was the way growing up. Animals were held very much over humanity. Humanity was a disease who needed to do better and to take care of the animals and the earth better. So I think there is still a religiosity around that priority. Oh, you mean like humanity is the devil? There's also still some cult like hierarchical expectations in the leaders. That's what I've been contacted about by some former employees and even current employees. Like, why are they so this way? Why won't they talk about things? Why do they play things so close to their chest? Why can't they be transparent about things? And why do I have to talk to certain people in this certain, very respectful, almost worshipful way? When Gabriel walks in, there's an expectation that a respectful hush should fall and that he should be paid attention to, and he cultivates that. My whole life, he has worn earth colors that remind you a lot of Jesus's robes, and has had hair and a beard that are absolutely to look like Jesus. There's no question in my mind that he's trying to have that appearance and look. In March of last year, Webworm visited the Best Friends Pet Adoption Center in West LA. Back then, I was aware of their origin story, but I had yet to speak with former cult members like Jared and his father Bruce. I'd emailed their PR team introducing myself as a journalist, documentary maker, and podcaster. They were incredibly warm and welcoming, agreeing to meet me and show me around. It was a slick, impressive building filled with staff and volunteers who were clearly passionate about rescuing animals. When I inquired about their history, they were as vague as I expected them to be. So we are a 501c3, so we do get donations. Best Friend has been around for about 40 years. We have been building our donor base and our supporters nationwide, so we're very lucky that people see our mission and agree with what it is that we're doing and that they want to help. Our biggest facility is in Kanab, Utah, so that's our sanctuary. They have roughly 1,500 animals. They range from cats, dogs, parrots, pigs, horses. They have everything there, and it's an incredible, 30,000 acre sanctuary. They do adoptions out there as well, but they also have animals who may be there for life, and so they have huge spaces, and it's just a lot more relaxing and quiet there. At one point, I stooped down to pet some puppies that were about to be picked up for adoption. Look at the little puppers. About a week ago, with the fuller knowledge about how Best Friends started and preparing to publish this piece, I reached out to the Best Friends PR team again. The fact is, over the last year, I'd heard a series of alarming accusations about what they'd done while they were known as the Process and later the Foundation. To me, it was significant that what would one day become Best Friends headquarters had been built in part by children. Those children had been separated from their parents, some of whom alleged emotional and physical abuse at the hands of cult members. I can understand this not being part of Best Friends' PR pack to donors, but after learning these things, their website somehow seemed garish, and at the very least disrespectful and dismissive to what had already taken place. And again, right there, talking about this scrappy group of friends. Given the seriousness of what Webworm had discovered, I also wanted to give Best Friends the right of reply before I published. With all that in mind, I asked them the following questions on November 17th with a deadline of the 19th. Number 1. Can you confirm the existence of a building colloquially known as the Lake House at Best Friends Utah site, a building originally built as a kind of church for the cult? What is the current status of Gabriel DePire with Best Friends? I understand that Gabriel was in a relationship with Marianne McLean. He was married to her, formerly of both the Process Church of the Final Judgment and Best Friends. Are there any original cult members besides DePire still involved with Best Friends in any way? Yes, there is. There's a lot of them. I understand that the first stages of what would turn into Best Friends headquarters in Utah was built in part by children aged around 13. This included digging ditches and other groundwork. Does Best Friends have any comment on this? Is there a particular reason the backstory on the website for how Best Friends came to be is incredibly vague? I didn't hear back, so I emailed them again. Later that day, I heard from Eric Ravid, his email signature reading Director, Crisis Communications. I know that they're constantly freaking the fuck out. He began by saying, Hi, David. Apologies for the late reply. Most of the information you're looking for can be found on our website. Feel free to dig around there. Webworm notes they've done plenty of digging on the Best Friends website and found nothing about my questions, bar the fact Gabriel D. Myers DePire is still present at the organization. He went on. As for the ancient history you're inquiring about, it's just that. Ravid proceeded to detail all the amazing things they've done for animals, none of which I'd ever debated. As for my other questions and allegations, he said, we're not really interested in talking about what amounts to a colorful origin story. He ended with a light warning to Webworm. I will say that if you're going to move forward with this angle, be prepared to wear your journalistic integrity hat, so to speak, and make sure you research and verify your sources and their stories. How Scientology of them. I sent one final reply. Understood, but just in regards to your comment, be prepared to wear your journalistic integrity hat and make sure you research and verify your sources and their stories. I am confident in my work, but as always with more serious allegations, such as the first stages of what would turn into Best Friends headquarters in Utah was built in part by children aged around 13. This included digging ditches and other groundwork. It's important I give Best Friends the right of reply, which, if I understand correctly, you do not wish to do. Best Friends never replied. I asked Bruce what he made of their reply. He tells me that, like his son Jared, he's taken the tour of the modern Best Friends in more recent years. He also takes exception to the sign on their grounds about that scrappy group of friends in 1984. It actually came together in 1963 in London, he observes dryly. No fucking shit. Thank you. I mean, this was a part of my life for like 20 years. I can't just say I wasn't part of this. It's like it's an acknowledgement. It's an acknowledgement, but also an interesting time to observe and still feel that slightly cultish thing there, you know? Mostly that manifests through their lack of transparency as you experienced. He pauses. That is so typical. That's never changed from the beginning and it's still going on now. And I think as long as any of those original people are still there and alive, that'll continue. We'll see. When they all pass away, something else might come along. But right now, they're very, very protective of themselves. And that is the story of the great gods of child labor of the Process Church of the Final Judgment, aka Best Friends Animal Society. I really thought that that guy did a damn fine job on that article. And I definitely give him kudos to that. 110%. I was just like, dude, the fact that he verified the existence of the lake house, granted, I had seen photos of the lake house, but the fact that he also was able to verify it independently by people who had actually been there, I'm just like, oh, this is beautiful. Chef's kiss. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Golf snaps. You know, the whole thing. Like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Because obviously, you know, no, I'm not done talking about Michael Mountain. I at least gave you guys enough to chew on for the time being. And we're going to come back and talk about the Whale Sanctuary Project. I will pull up. I actually think I didn't do it on here. I think it was only on the Patreon. I will at least show you who his parents were. I'm not going to pull up the whole PowerPoint, but let me at least show you a photo really quick. That way you know who I'm talking about as far as Jarrett goes. Let me pull this up. This was unexpected, but I don't want to leave people hanging, at least so that you have an idea. Are you going to work, please? Thank you. Okay, so right here. So this is Enoch and Magdalene St. Clair. This is them. The Ministry of the Angels of Christ, an outreach of the Foundation Faith of God. The Reverend Enoch Garrick and his wife, the Reverend Magdalene St. Clair, talking about communicating with angels, getting all this stuff from angels, right? And then there he is over at the Foundation Faith. It's a very 80s photo, right? But he gets with Evelyn. And there he is in Quakertown, because the process had a real big presence with the Quakers. Real big presence with the Quakers. But I still need to clean all of that up. That way I can show you guys. But at least now you know who his parents were. You know what members they were. I think that obviously visuals are helpful. I do not know what we're going to talk about next time. Like I said, that article, I really, really, really wanted to get it out because I do think that it's really important. And I think when we talk about Michael Mountain next, I am going to try and find the radio interview where he is caught essentially trying to strong arm these radio hosts, you know, being very weird with his threats because he was, you know, the president and also, you know, the editor of the magazine. So he was kind of the PR guy, right? And obviously, there is no disassociation with him now. Just because he's not the president, that doesn't mean anything. And like I said, you know, Enoch Bruce had said it to the author himself that there were other living members there. Obviously, Best Friends is not going to confirm that, but, you know, there's a ton of them that are still there right now. And I would argue that the current CEO, Julie Castle, who, according to herself, but also to her family history, thanks to Ashley B for sending me all of that information. It's something that we have discussed on the Patreon. She comes from directly the Brigham Young bloodline. Her father was heavily involved in real estate in the state of Arizona and Utah. And it does seem like she came from more of a fundamentalist sect at some point and or had an association with a fundamentalist sect. And so that is something else that we are also going to touch on because many people have asked, how did the process, aka Best Friends, get their foot into a fundy town, right? They're the outsiders there. Obviously, you know, the thought that Montezuma's gold is buried throughout those caves out there is very alluring. And it's very interesting that they end up wielding enough power to take ownership of all of that property, right? I think that that's real fucking weird. But for now, I am going to leave it here. Hopefully that was informative for you guys. I apologize about the audio glip, and I'm gonna wait to see what My boy Disillusioned Druid says, because I just saw his chat and he says, Dana, I need to say what? What? Tell me. Tell me. What is it? I would say that the process, kind of Trinitarian. I would say more so, no, it's a Scientology trying to blend with Christianity, and I use that as a very loose term. John Mappin does this. He tries to mix Catholicism with Christianity and Scientology and says that they're all compatible. It gives off a very processed vibe. That's all I'm saying. Local news: New Mexico investigation redacted the page where Deb Haaland, governor hopeful, flew on Epstein's plane with Gary King, son of Bruce, who sold Epstein's Zorro Ranch. Well, that tracks. Do you know whether any formal public records requests have ever been made for the original law enforcement investigative files in the Arliss Perry murder case? They are Gnostic. I would say they are neo-Gnostic pagans. That's the term that I think is most appropriate. But for people that want to put denominational things on it, I also understand that. That's easier for some people. And I'm not saying easier as in it's, a cognitive defect or that you're stupid. It's just, I think neo-Gnostic paganism is more accurate. It's kind of just a bunch of mishmash, but there's always Scientology in the middle, right? Don't you say as it is to your favorite uncle. Don't do that. And yes, Vlad was a hero. As far as Arliss Perry, I do not know. There's one of Tom O'Neill's researchers, an individual by the name of Paul Hart, aka Paul Hart Berger. He claims to have a lot of files that never seem to come to fruition in regards to the Son of Sam case and things that are adjacent to it. I don't know if he has access to that. I do not endorse what is that guy's name? Stephen Crawford. I don't buy all of that. And the whole him having the ultimate evil in his house when he committed suicide. I just don't buy it. I'm sorry. I think that it's a crock of shit. And this whole concept of David Berkowitz making this up out of whole cloth, there's a lot of people that have to be discredited in order for that to be the case. How many people have to be discredited, and how many multi-million dollar media campaigns via the largest streaming service in the world have to be created just to try and discredit technically one author, Maury Terry, right? And then we also know that the shit coding of Ed Sanders is going to come when Ed does pass, because death and taxes are the only thing that are guaranteed in this life. And so Ed Sanders is not going to live forever. But this is why I'm constantly trying to the best of my ability, vindicate these individuals when I can, when I come across the information, because they were right. People just don't want to admit it. I'm not going to sit here and run my mouth. We've been going for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I think we'll wrap it up here for now. Again, I hope that this was informative for people. Thank you in the chat for everybody that's here. I truly appreciate it. Again, sorry for the audio mix up. Maybe at some point I can have somebody, one of the mods, get them in here on the back end of Restream, and they can make sure that I'm not getting muted, because it disconnects, but it doesn't show up on you guys' side that my whole thing shuts down. Thankfully, it doesn't kick me out, but everything just goes on my side. And the only thing it does is mutes the audio, which is odd. But I understand that that's a lot to ask of somebody, especially someone that I can't pay to fucking help me, right? I will see you guys tomorrow on Patreon for the Sloppy Toppy PSYOP Saturday, for those who are interested. And sure, people that want to come and, judge me and say that I shouldn't listen to Andrew Wilson, and then I'm, and then I'm psyoping myself. Like, Jesus, can we all just enjoy things, for Christ? Andrew Wilson could call women retarded. I think that Candace's followers are retarded. Who cares? It doesn't mean that I'm fully buying into party politics. Okay, I think that people are interesting and I listen to them. Guess what? I think the people that listen to Josh Zeman and fucking Nicholas Schreck or The Gardener, those people, they're fucking retarded. I'm allowed to have my opinion. I'm allowed to enjoy things. And guess what? So are you. So are you. However, we can also call each other retards and just move on. It doesn't have to be the end of the world. One more thing. Totally forgot. For those of you that will remember, I had brought up previously about the Mae Brussel Project, right? The channel that has changed its name now to the Conspiracy Archives. And me and Parker had touched on this in our video that the dumbasses got sent over to Rumble. Well, Mr. Eric Galati, for whatever reason, decided to make a statement on behalf of the Mae Brussel Project. I have a feeling that he probably was running his mouth a little bit too much, but guess what? I'm going to give you guys what he said from his own mouth, all of the excuses, because guess what? From what he said, there is no scanner that's been purchased in 3 years. Not a single file has been uploaded in 3 years because it hasn't been scanned in 3 years. There's no website in 3 years. So anybody who donated to that, well, if it was me, I would certainly be inquiring about where my money went. But Eric seems to have a lot of inside knowledge. And let's not forget, Mae Brussel Project is one Glenna Schultz. Again, the Conspiracy Archives. Oh, and Glenna Schultz, ironically enough, was the co-host of the Tate LaBianca radio show under the name Cat's Cradle. Isn't it interesting how all these people just seem to be involved in very strange and disparate ways and have tried to cover their tracks by changing their names? Yeah, a little bit weird, right? A little bit odd. I would just love knowing where my money went if I donated to it, but thankfully I don't have an obsession with any of these counterculture heroes. Sans Ed, but again, I've driven out there twice and I've looked at his files myself, so we'll see. All right, guys, I hope that you have a beautiful weekend. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. You can come in, make requests, all that